begin at any time, sir.
Alrighty. Hello and welcome to the Leadership Edge. I am your host, Ted Gorski. The Leadership Edge is a show that focuses on leadership topics that are affecting you on a daily basis. Our goal in this show is to kind of talk about these topics and provide tips and techniques to help you with your leadership on a daily basis. Again, our goal is to really discuss some of these key areas. And on today's show, we've been talking over the last several shows about trailblazing leadership and what it is. And from that, we've kind of received some questions in regards to trailblazing leadership and what it does. And if you haven't been able to see the last three shows, I suggest that you kind of review those shows to kind of talk about the three different facets of trailblazing leadership. But between the shows, I've gotten some emails from our fabulous viewers, and we thank you for viewing and watching our show. And I decided today to be what we call the Leadership Edge Potluck. Yes, you know how it is. Potluck lunch, where you don't know what you're going to get. There's a potpourri. How do you like that, Producer Bill?
Awesome.
Great word. Potpourri of questions today to whet your appetite regarding trailblazing leadership. And I am going to be quizzing Producer Bill because, as we know from previous shows, Bill, you've been trying to move up.
Still looking for that promotion.
Switch that camera over there. Up. There you go.
Oh, I'm learning.
There you go. We're trying to move you up and elevate you to the #1 producer ranking. So you got to get a little quick. There you go. See, I'm on it to try to help Producer Bill today. So why don't we start today's show with our first question. The first question that I've received from one of our viewers is, why do I want to become a trailblazing leader? Now, we discussed on the previous shows the different aspects of what a trailblazing leader is, how it impacts them, and why it's important to be one. But why do you want to be one? Well, let me tell you, first of all, it's a lot more fun. Trailblazing leaders, even though they're blazing new trails, going into new areas that haven't been explored, and sometimes can be quite risky. But at the same time, it could be an enormous lot of fun to be part of that. So first of all, fun is name of the game and why you want to become a trailblazing leader. I think a second point, too, is trailblazing leaders make more, what is that, Producer Bill? Dinero. Is that dinero? Dinero. Very good. Like Robert De Niro. Make more money. See, trailblazing leaders, because they take risks, also have high rewards. So becoming a trailblazer helps you kind of in that particular area. But let me tell you the third point, which is really vital. And I say this as a coach who works with leaders on a consistent basis. The third part of why you become a trailblazing leader is it helps you stand out as a leader. You see, in today's world, we have leaders who are really just looking at doing, trying to catch you, Producer Bill. Aha, there you go. They're trying to do the same thing over and over again. It's the same way. Well, the key thing about trailblazing leaders is they look at new ways. And new ways makes them more valuable. Because that's the key point we're looking at here, is to make you and what you do more valuable. So by becoming more valuable to the organization, it helps you make more money, helps you stand out, not only in the current organization you're in, but in the industry and in the job world in general, because it doesn't make you stale. So that's why becoming a trailblazing leader is important, is really being able to look outside the box and try new things. Which leads us to question number 2. How do I get started to becoming a trailblazing leader? I mean, I've gotten some great comments from the viewership about the whole last 3 shows about trailblazing leader, what it is, the different aspects. And they're like, okay, this is great, but how do I get started? Let me tell you the first thing I tell leaders on this path. The first thing is really I would like you to ask better questions. Becoming a trailblazing leader is all about curiosity. It's always about looking at new ways to solve past problems. And as a trailblazer, it's about asking those questions. In one of the shows, we talked about the key thing of open-ended versus closed-ended questions. You know, the whole question of open-ended is asking questions in which someone has to give you more than a one-word answer. See, trailblazing leaders understand the power of those type of questions. So if you want to start your journey on becoming a trailblazer, I'd say the first step I want you to do is really ask those kind of questions and be curious to the answers. Listen to the answers that you're provided, because it's going to help you look at what potential problems there may be, or maybe what are more potential issues in terms of dealing with a particular issue. So trailblazers know that. And by asking those kind of questions, it's going to draw out some more things from the person you're talking to. Because as coaches, that's what we do. When we're talking and coaching others, all we're doing is really talking and asking open-ended questions to really draw out more what the person is feeling, what they're experiencing. So I challenge you to do that, and that could be your first step. Third question, and producer Bill, this is where you get a huge demerit today, because you didn't even ask me about my new glasses. So how do you like my new glasses?
They look wonderful.
Why did it take you so long to be able to say that? Why did I have to pull the show out to have you give me your view of my fabulous glasses there, producer Bill?
Because I just looked right through you, Ted. Sorry, bud.
Hey, turn to this camera here. Look at these glasses. Don't these look marvelous? Matter of fact, my wife said when she got them, they make you look smart. Do you agree, producer Bill?
Sure, Ted.
Okay, that is not a right answer. That's not a right answer. You were trying to move up to producer one, but Colleen said it did. So you're slipping. So move on to the next question. Tips on improving my critical thinking skills. One of the things, and this is a great comment and question that I got. I actually condensed it down a little bit for you, producer Bill. But one of the questions was like, Ted, this is great. One of the things I want to work on is being a better critical thinker. What do I need to do? Well, part of critical thinking, and I've noticed this in my work with especially new emerging leaders, is that a lot of the emerging leaders tend to think in lazy terms. I'm trying to say this nicely. What I mean is they're not challenging some of the information that they're getting when they're trying to make decisions or address problems. What they're doing is they take information and they take it in face value. And they're not taking the time to really look at it from a critical perspective. I call it lazy thinking. What the whole concept of critical thinking is to break out of that. You have to be curious to be able to really analyze certain information. So what I ask you to do and be challenging you to do is step one is to be more curious. When you get some information, ask some follow-up questions. Where did you get this information? Tell me more about who provided this information. Your goal as a leader is to really be able to challenge the various pieces of information you get, to be able to put the pieces of the puzzle together. So I challenge you to be able to do that, and that's one thing you want to do that's going to help you. Also, part of being a better critical thinker is being more open and flexible, realizing the type of information you're getting, gathering it, and being able to sift through it more effectively. But the key part in terms of looking at in dealing with critical thinking is really being able to sift through that information and really being able not to be a lazy thinker, but asking those right questions and challenging things. Question 5. I see myself as a realist, but others see me as negative. Any tips on developing a more positive approach? Producer Bill, great question. I know this came from you. Yes?
I put it in your Dropbox. Yes, sir.
I see. And as a great leader, I picked up on it. How's that, huh? You're picking up there, Producer Bill. I like that. So let's talk about this, because this is a common issue that I have seen that a lot of leaders kind of get stuck in. What's happening there, what's happening in the organization these days is, as leaders, we're looking at solving problems. And leaders look at situations and say, okay, I got to be a realist, I got to provide information. But your team is looking at it from a perspective of, well, it'd be great if you can kind of give me some positive feedback, or can we kind of come across for this in a more positive way? And I have an exercise that I put my leaders through who are realists to really help them develop that positive approach. Because think of it as a muscle that has to be built. So one of the things I call it is a 2-for-1 challenge. What I ask my leaders to do, especially the realistic type of leaders, is I ask them before they give their comment in regards to what they see as the realistic idea or approach or solution to something, to provide 2 positives in that situation. So I want them to say 2 positive things before they bring out their realistic, which sometimes comes across as negative. Now, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to develop that positive approach muscle. And for many of the leaders who are going through this, it's pretty tough. They'll come to me in the next coaching session and say, that was the toughest exercise I had to do. I really had to dig for those 2 positives whenever I was kind of approaching a situation. Well, that's a great sign that shows me that I'm trying to develop, and they are developing their positive approach muscle. So, for you people out there, leaders who are looking at things from a realistic lens, which could be perceived as a negative kind of perception, I challenge you to take this exercise and write me back and let me know how it goes, because we want to develop that whole positive mindset. Question number 6, how can I reclaim the #1 producer spot for the show? All right, this came from an unknown person. I don't know who that might be. Any idea, Producer Bill? Great answer. I like that. You see what I'm dealing with here in the Leadership Edge, what I do for you, the viewership. How can I soar with eagles when I'm working with turkeys? Help me out here. Huh? But anyways, to my fan out there who wants to reclaim that, first of all, it'd be nice to comment on my newfound glasses. Goes a long way. Also, it would help to refill my water mug before the show. That would pretty help. And to come to class prepared. Producer Bill, I'm going to flip over here to see how you're picking up. Very nicely done. You started to pick that up. Now, if I swing back over here, nicely done. You're picking it up there, Producer Bill. Question 7, why is alignment overlooked by most leaders? This was a fabulous question I received. What's interesting about this? We talked about alignment. And again, alignment is about walking the talk and talking the walk. It's whatever you are saying and your behaviors are matching up to your words that you are saying to people. So for example, if you say, I have an open door policy, and you state that, well, your actions must be that you have to have a door open, but also when people come in, that you give undivided attention to those people that come in on your team who are bringing up an issue. To be able to go pounding on a PC or pick up your cell phone while they're in is not an open door policy. So they have to line up. But what's interesting today is that leaders, what's happening is that they get too stuck in what I call the weeds, in the forest. That they don't realize their behaviors. They don't realize kind of what they are, how others are perceiving them. Usually when I start coaching with leaders, one of the things I do is I will talk to them about the various perceptions that other people in the organization may have of them. And part of those perceptions really ties into an alignment. What I'm trying to do is get them to be aware that there are certain perceptions throughout the organization. And my goal is to really get them to be aware of, are they in sync to their behaviors, to what they are saying. And leaders just are so busy today, kind of jumping from issue to issue, problem to problem, that they're not taking the time to really look at, are things aligned? So I challenge you. I want you as leaders to look at your actions, and do they line up to the words that you are stating out there? What perceptions out there? If there is a misperception, I challenge you to ask yourself why. Why is that perception out there? Because the key thing is you need to be aware of this and be aware on how aligned you are to your actions and to your words. Question 8. If I become a trailblazing leader, what is the impact on my team? Great question. And this came from Daniel in Merrimack. Daniel, let me tell you this. The key thing is that part of being a trailblazing leader is that when we are following the 3 characteristics, what we end up doing is empowering our team. We actually get them to be able to step out of their old status quo mode and really get them to be more effective and proficient in what they're doing. So what we're doing as a trailblazer is we challenge others. Because we're upping our game, we're challenging others to up their game, which by definition will create better results. People want to work with trailblazing leaders because, as we stated earlier, it's a lot more fun because they're looking at new ways to solve problems. I think one of the shows we had a quote from Albert Einstein that says, you can't use the same thinking that created a problem to solve it. Trailblazers know that, realize that, and really look at different ways to solve issues. So it's a lot more fun to be around these people. These people are more positive. And guess what? When you have a positive kind of atmosphere and corporate culture on your team, it's going to be even more effective to the end result. So there's many different positive impacts to the team and to individuals. And you also will find that individuals that work under a trailblazing leader tend to be more personally developed because they're going to be learning new skills. So as you can see, there's a lot of positive impacts to the team, and it's important for you to be able to realize that. So question 9 was an interesting one that I got from Gene in Bedford, who said, does humor have any impact on trailblazing leaders? It's funny, we didn't really talk about humor so much in the characteristics, but the real thing, the whole reality is humor is vital. Humor is really important in terms of trailblazing leaders because they're cutting new paths. They're kind of going in different directions. They're looking at problems on a new approach, and guess what? They're going to hit some resistance. And having a positive approach, but also using humor, also makes that leader look human. So having a positive humor is going to help a trailblazing leader effective because there are times they're going to hit some bumpy roads. And the ones that can kind of handle that by using humor is going to be more effective leaders. So humor does have a positive impact here on trailblazing leaders, and they realize that. Question 10, which was quite of an interesting one. If I possess 2 of the 3 characteristics of being a trailblazer, am I still a trailblazing leader? Well, let me tell you, if you have 2 of the 3, you don't have trailblazing leadership. Because if you're missing one of the characteristics, alignment, critical thinking, and what we said, allurement, positive language, if you take the first letter of those, it's called ACE. Do you like that, Producer Bill?
Love it.
ACE. Trailblazing leaders are aces. If you're missing one of them, you don't, by definition, have trailblazing leadership. So it's vital that if you're missing that third one, whatever that third one is, it's working on it to become that trailblazing leader. Question 11. We'll throw a little sports one in there because Producer Bill is a Patriots season ticket holder. And Producer Bill, I will ask you this question. This is your test. Is Tom Brady a trailblazing leader?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that, Producer Bill?
His players will follow him everywhere, and they believe that he can win, so they will win.
Amazing. You're listening to the show. Tremendous. If we look at each of the characteristics, first of all, alignment. Is Tom Brady aligned with his behaviors and his actions? Absolutely. We hear from various reports he's the first person in practice and the last one to leave. So when he asks others to put the time in, he's actually doing that. So he's aligned in his behaviors and his words. When he prepares extra for a game, he's expecting others to prepare extra for a game. So when he asks others, he is modeling that behavior. C for critical thinking. Well, he's a person that actually will dissect the game plan for the team. He helps put it together. So when he's up on the line of scrimmage looking at how the defense is played, he has to critically think of who is the player he needs to throw the ball to. Who's most likely the one that's going to be open. So in terms of critical thinking, he's able to assess that. And he did that brilliantly in the Super Bowl, even though he had a pick, okay, which was a stupid throw. Other than that, outstanding. And lastly, positive language, his allurement. If you listen to Tom after games, if you listen to what the team has to do, he is always positive. He always puts people in the team up front. He never says anything bad about a player. He's always using positive language to get the player's performance up. So by the definition of a trailblazer, Tom Brady is one. Question 12 was, is walking the talk and talking the walk important to trailblazers? We've already answered that. It's absolutely important. It's one of the most critical things of alignment. And when we start talking later in the year, prepping a show, we're going to dissect the various presidential candidates. We're going to look at where do they fall in trailblazing leadership. We're going to analyze their walking the talk and talking the walk, but it is a critical aspect of trailblazing leadership. Question 13, something to ponder. A couple of things as we kind of look at things. So Producer Bill, I'm going to ask you this question. Why does a round pizza come in a square box?
Don't know, Ted.
It's like one of those mysteries of life, right? And this one I love. Before they invented drawing boards, what did they go back to? Interesting questions to ponder. We do everything here on the Leadership Edge. We make you not only bring up some tips and techniques, but we bring up things for you to think about. Question 14. How do I take care of myself as a trailblazing leader? Well, it's very important when we look at trailblazing leadership that leaders take care of themselves. What we're talking about here is that leaders have energy gas tanks, just like your car has a gas tank. And in order for trailblazers to kind of blaze that trail, it takes a lot of energy because after all, sometimes they're alone in looking at how to address an issue. So part of this is real important for leaders, which means they must keep their tank full at all times. Now, what do we mean by keeping your energy tank full? Well, the key part here is in order for like your car, for example, to go long distance, you must fill it up with gas. And as you progress, through your journey, it's going to help you get to your destination. It's very similar with trailblazing leadership. You must have a full gas tank of energy to be able to forge a new trail. But what happens when you run low? Well, there are many negative effects. Number one, there's a lack of patience. When you're dealing with people who you're trying to maybe influence, who may be a little bit different, if you have low energy, what could end up happening is you're not going to have the amount of patience to be able to work with those people. What also will happen is that if you have low energy cycles, you're not going to have any energy to deal with certain barriers that are going to come in the way. So as a result, you're not probably going to be a good listener, and your decisions are probably not going to be as effective. So what I challenge leaders that I'm working with to keep their tank full is as a leader, you have to think about those things that you enjoy doing that's going to help you. So for example, some leaders like to go for a walk. Some leaders I work with like to play golf. Other leaders like to just go read a book. What I ask them to do is make sure they put that in their schedule, at least on a weekly basis, to keep their energy tank full at all times. So that's what I challenge you to do, is really look at your energy gas tank. Is it full? What I usually tell my leaders is when it starts getting half full, really start to look at making sure you put those activities to really build up your energy cycles. It's going to be very critical in order to maintain your energy. And lastly, I wanted just to remind everybody, there are 3 types of people in this world. People who watch things happen, people who make things happen, and people who don't know what hell just happened. Right, Producer Bill?
You nailed it, Ted.
There you go. Trailblazing leaders make things happen, but it also realized that there are some people who watch things happen, and people who don't know just happened. It's our role as trailblazers to help those people through those particular situations. Help them see what the end result would be. Help them see where the end goal is. Because those are the people who really need our help, and why being a trailblazer is really important. So that was a little fun today in terms of kind of wrapping up this whole thing on trailblazing leadership and some questions that some of the viewers sent to us. So your challenge today is to take a couple of these, or take one or two, and try to apply them in your leadership for the coming week. Kind of apply them so you too can become a trailblazing leader in what you do in your organization. So in terms of looking at the clock, we're kind of wrapping up here. So if there's anything we can do to help you with your leadership needs, feel free to reach out to us at ted@getYourEdge.com, or go to our website at www.getYourEdge.com. Thanks for tuning in to this week's show, and we look to see you next time on the Leadership Edge.